Friday Night Bytes. I'm Jordon, Ireland. This is Scott Risdall.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for joining us. Scott, what are we talking about today?
Well, seems like we can't stop talking about ransomware, Jordan. I think this is this episode 3 in a row of ransomware topics?
I think so.
I think so,
but this week we're talking about the gangs.
The gangs, the looters and shooters of the cybercrime world.
And we're talking flaky pastries as well.
We are. Unrelated. Quick reminder, if you're just joining us for the first time, we talk about both food in the Twin Cities metro area and cybersecurity topics in the same show. Why? We're still not sure, but we like to do it anyway.
I mean, some things like just go together, like peanut butter and jelly and, asparagus and butterscotch.
Yeah, and ransomware and freshly pan-seared steaks, if you caught the opening few seconds of our show here.
Stay with us. So stay with us. All right. This is going to be a shorter show, I think, than last week. If you stayed with us last week, you're a trooper, and you are...
I didn't even stay through the whole show. I left.
Most people leave when I'm going on and on about ransomware and flaky pastries.
Someday we'll talk about how to perfect the YouTube algorithm that puts commercials into recordings, and how it's important to make sure you maximize how many commercials you get in to make more money.
More money. And that's what we like, and that's what ransomware gangs like.
They do.
They like the money.
They do. Well, let's talk food first, and then we'll get into the ransomware gangs in a minute.
All right, here's the bites. Here's the bites I had. So I took my wife on a little outing a while back to a place that was recommended, a local eatery called the Buttered Tin. There's a few locations. I believe that we went to the Northeast Minneapolis one, this one in St. Paul. But the Buttered Tin, doesn't that just sound good?
It does. I can visualize melting butter inside a tin. There's not even any food there. It's just fat and container.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we went there for breakfast. We had a wonderful breakfast. I had the smothered breakfast burrito. Yum.
Yeah, I love breakfast burritos.
And it was great. But the thing that took the cake, no pun intended, was the cinnamon roll that we had. My wife and I split a cinnamon roll, and it was, Scott.
How good was it?
Scott, it was the softest, the flakiest, the gooeyest sensation I've ever experienced in my life. You say, how can you make a cinnamon roll that's better than any other? I don't know. But they did it.
But they did it.
But they did it. And, oh, man, it was a great experience. I loved it.
I'm trying to find it on their menu, and oh, maybe it's the bakery section here. That would make sense, huh?
Yep.
Cinnamon roll, $6. Was it $6 good?
It was $12 good.
I remember that scene from Pulp Fiction where John Travolta's out at the Jackrabbit Slims and he orders the $5 milkshake, or Uma Thurman orders the $5 milkshake, and he says, it's pretty dang good. I don't know if it's worth $5. It's pretty good. And that was like 1993, so.
You're dating us.
I'm married, actually.
Boom!
Boom.
And jokes galore here on this show. You can't go around, pair them all together.
Yeah, I mean, this place looks solid. Everything looks scratch, as the kids like to say, and they have vegetarian and vegan options. Lots of meat too.
Yeah, lots of coffee and coffee mugs, and
man, they have Irish coffee. You can get Irish cream coffee there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a great experience. I highly recommend it. The breakfast was wonderful, and yeah, I don't think, and it wasn't that busy though. You'd think it was it was like breakfast time on a Sunday, and. Or was it a Saturday? Either way, it was a weekend.
Yeah. Should be packed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty packed. They just had a lot of room, I think. And they people, were just able to get in and get out, and it was great.
Yeah, I've been to the one in St. Paul before, and it was busy. and I think we had to wait 15 minutes for a table. But yeah, it wasn't inhumane. The wait was good.
Yeah. Yeah, you go,
Cool.
you order it. It's kind of like you go through this line and then you order your food and then you go sit and they bring it out to
Sure.
you.
Cool.
What are you talking about this week?
Yeah. Yep. So mine is also over in Minneapolis. There's only one location. It's called the Wood and Paddle Eatery, or Wood Plus Paddle.
Wood plus paddle. Okay,
on
not
their
just the
website.
wooden paddle.
Yeah, wood. Right. Wood and paddle.
Like my mom used to use on me.
Yeah. Apparently, she didn't do a good enough job. Yeah, this place it's right downtown Minneapolis. I took the wife there for a nice romantic evening not so long ago, and we really liked it. I had been hunting for places that we had not tried before, and looked for something that was kind of that sweet spot between, not fancy enough and too expensive for me. So I found this place, and we really, really liked it. Their main sort of inspiration and claim to fame is kind of Minnesota and Midwest-based food. So what does that mean? For example, you can get pan-fried sunfish, sunnies, right?
Mhm.
You caught sunnies in the
It's a
pond.
Minnesota delicacy. Yeah.
It's a staple. They also had wild rice and mushroom croquettes, and I guess I don't know the type of mushroom, but I feel like they were hand gathered. They probably weren't, but they were really good. What else was good? I had the bison burger for my entree with bacon jam, tomato, ghost pepper cheese, fried onion strings, smoked house-made ketchup, and
Wow.
rough cut fries. It was great. It was really fresh. Everything again is sort of scratch. But you can also get a steak. They have Walleye Schnitzel, which is on my list the next time I go back.
Yeah, look at that. Braised red cabbage.
Yep. You can get a smoked half pig's head. Probably want to bring a few friends for that.
They just cut it in half right down between the eyes.
I didn't look that closely. Let's see. Check out the drink menu real quick. So yeah, all local Minnesota taps, wine from everywhere, and then invented kind of locally sourced cocktails and things. So just a really place you feel good going into, a place you feel good eating, and a place you're happy to recommend on your podcast. And I guess this is only the only time I've been there, but I would imagine that they rotate the menu fairly often to kind of keep things fresh. So maybe I'll report back next year and update you.
You really like things fresh, don't you?
And scratch. Yeah. All right, that's enough about
great.
food.
I'm gonna go there.
All right, let's talk bites with a Y.
Oh yeah, bites with the Y. That's the real entree of this podcast.
The main course.
The main course.
So last time we talked about ransomware. 2 times ago we talked about ransomware as an overview. What is ransomware? Why is it kind of on the rise? How does it work? Who kind of does it? And how should people protect themselves? Last week, we did a bit of a deep dive, as you said, kind of a longer episode on the Rackspace ransomware incident from just end of last year, December of 2022. And we went into way too much detail about that one event. So this time we're kind of trying to hit that Goldilocks zone. We're going to back up a little bit and just look at sort of the top 5 ransomware groups of the last, year or two?
Yeah. Yeah. Who are these groups? Who are they? Why are they? What are they doing? What are they up to?
Yeah, and we like to call them gangs. And you imagine some wayward youth smashing a window and stealing a stereo, or some turf wars in an urban area. But
I think of West Side Story.
Yeah, I think of snapping people, menacing each other with switchblade combs. But they really are. They're crime on the internet can be so nebulous, right? It's all the wires. It goes through. It's all the tubes connected, as the Alaskan congressman once said, or whatever. It's hard to sort of like put a human face on it. So that's what we're trying to do tonight, is get up close and personal with sort of the humans and how they operate behind this type of cybercrime.
Yeah. So what's the first one?
Yeah, let's get into it. So the first one is called BlackBasta, and they are relatively new. They just kind of came on the scene last year, 2022, but they've already made a pretty big name for themselves, and they were one of the top 5 ransomware groups of last year by some measure. Um, like a lot of the groups we're going to talk about today, they're a ransomware as a service group. And I know we've talked about what that means a little bit before. I'll just quickly rehash it since we're going to talk about it more. So they operate on a kind of a divided responsibility affiliate model. So there's the core group, which I guess in this case is BlackBasta, who develops the ransomware, who sells it or licenses it, and then in a lot of cases who supports it, right? They even provide like help desk for their affiliates, for their customers,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can guarantee a good customer experience. They really have thought through it all. And then they license the ransomware and the tactics and the support and all that stuff to these groups who actually want to carry out the attacks. So um, not so different from, I don't know, what's a good analogy? What's another affiliate-based business model that you can think of?
Upside app.
No, I said no pyramid schemes on this show, Jordan.
um,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So somebody who develops the app, and then you tell
like
your friends, and
Salesforce.
they tell your friends. Sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I suppose Microsoft, or really anybody. So they license software to other people. Um, so BlackBasta is one of those. Um,
You got to be
they
careful how you say that name.
BlackBasta, Basta. They so some things about them. They use the Quackbot, CACBot, Trojan, and or Cobalt Strike commercial pen testing tools for their persistence, which is not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have ransomware that targets both Windows and Linux. And I think when we see some of these groups talk about Linux, their main one of their main targets is ESXi or VMware, those hypervisors that ultimately are Linux under the hood. So Linux systems, including those that are repackaged by vendors as commercial products. Um, Once they get into a system, they use PowerShell and other lol bins, which are those kind of native Windows or Linux utilities that can be, misused um, to spread to get recon on the environments they find themselves in, but stay under the radar of antivirus tools because these are legitimate programs within the operating system, right?
I tell you what, when this is going on, the only one lolling is the ransomware gang.
It's true. They are known to use double extortion, and I know we've talked about that before, so we won't beat that to death. But basically, they'll come for your data and they'll stick around to sort of name and shame you online and try to find as many different routes as they can to make you pay up.
Mm-hmm.
They're generally focused on English-speaking countries, so that says something about their staff and maybe where they're even based. They target organizations of all size in the technology, insurance, manufacturing, construction, and public utilities spaces. So they're um, happy to target anybody. They don't seem to discriminate too much. One notable victim that we found in our research was the American Dental Association. I know almost nothing about them except they tell me which toothpaste to use and how often to brush. But apparently they're not immune to ransomware.
And now Black Basta knows how much you brush.
Twice a day. It's regulation. And then another thing that I think we'll hear over and over is that they don't necessarily care how they get onto your network, right? They're not only compromising specific vulnerabilities, they're not only attacking VPN portals. They're happy to buy usernames and passwords that have leaked online, or even existing persistent access from access brokers. They're happy to get in however they can. They've been known to use the print nightmare exploits from, I guess, a year and a half ago or so, and Mimikatz, which is an open source credential dumping tool that anybody can go download right now from GitHub, I think, to escalate their privileges. And then, despite being pretty young and new on the scene, they are very professional. They have their stuff together, and have been able to take on and take down very big organizations.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Got to be professional if you want to maintain a good reputation.
You do. Just scrolling through the article here to see if there's anything else that's interesting to say before we move on. A lot of what I said is in here, and we'll put these links in the show notes, as I think we've been doing so far, hopefully. Maybe we'll have to go back and update those.
You might have to go back and update those.
This one's good, though. It does give IOCs. It goes deep dives pretty well into the MITRE attack framework, tactics and techniques. Really good write-up here from Trend Micro. So that's BlackBasta. Let's move on in alphabetical order to...
Well, let's stay in the color black, and let's go to Black Cat.
All right.
Black Cat. So they started in the late 2021, so just before BlackBasta. Maybe that's where BlackBasta kind of got their name. They said, "Oh, well, you're Black Cat, we're BlackBasta."
Well, Black Cat is those fireworks. You used to play with those, right?
Yeah.
The pop, 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 pop ones. They were the strips. Yeah.
Yeah, freak out my kids with that.
Yeah. I assume that's where they got their name. Don't ruin it for me.
But they're also known as Alpha V. Where'd that name come from? But they were believed to be kind of a reemergence of the dark side ransomware group.
Oh yeah, DarkSide. They were responsible for the Colonial Pipeline ransomware, right?
Yes.
Which shut down like half of the petroleum processing on the East Coast or whatever.
Yeah, big time stuff. Yep.
Yeah. When was that?
2021.
Okay.
Yep. Initial access is typically through compromised user credentials, and then they attempt to escalate the privileges from there within an Active Directory domain. Then they use native tools like Task Scheduler and GPO, Group Policy, to deploy the ransomware. So that's a
LOL.
Yeah. Using the common apps, common tools that maybe go under the radar, like you said. The core ransomware software is written in the Rust programming language. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. That's right. I forgot that part. So Rust is a newer programming language that's being one of its main claims to fame is that it's memory safe. So it's not, at least in theory, I guess, it's not subject to the same kinds of like buffer overflow, use after free type exploits that C and C++ and those traditional compiled languages are. So Rust is built from the ground up to be a safer and more secure programming language. So interesting that they made that choice.
Yeah, and apparently it gives it more like higher performance and is and analysis is more difficult.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if Rust has any kind of built-in like obfuscation, but compiled code in general, is harder to reverse engineer or analyze than, say Python or PowerShell or JavaScript or anything else that, that the code needs to be sort of plain text to work. So,
they are a ransomware as a service group,
mm-hmm.
And just like we said, it means they license their software in return for a share of the ransom. So they get a little bit of the share. Now, the affiliates have reported that that they keep 80 to 90% of the ransomware proceeds.
The affiliates, so the people who license the software, not the actual software developers?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so they reported keeping that, which is higher than most ransomware as a service groups pay out. So they're trying to make it really intriguing to use their software because you'll keep more of the ransom that you use it on. They also set up a public website. That was another interesting thing to showcase their victims and motivate payments. So they have kind of a wall of shame public website that hopefully gets lights a fire under someone to actually pay the ransom.
So it's not on the dark web? It's not something you'd have to go through Tor to access? It's just straight up a public website? Why can't they shut it down?
Apparently not. I don't know. Why can't they shut it down?
I don't know. Come on, FBI.
And it's a public website.
And we're going to talk about that, aren't we? We're going to talk about where the FBI is in all of this later on, I think.
Yes. Teaser. So that's Black Cat in a hat.
Pop, 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 pop. Popping off ransomware all over the globe. Did you see anything about where they're based out of, or kind of who they tend to target, or are they also basically equal opportunity
Yeah, I
ransomers?
didn't see anything, or at least I didn't bullet point anything.
Okay.
Do you have the article up?
I do, and I'm skimming, but I don't see anything. The FBI is well aware of them. Speaking of the FBI, but I guess if they're a rebranding or a reemergence of the dark side group, I want to say that those were linked to Russia, but I guess I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I won't find it quick, but more to be learned about those guys.
Lockbit had some theories of it being linked to Russia.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, let's keep going in alphabetical order here to Hive. Hive ransomware. Here's in the byline: the Hive group has supplanted Black Cat as one of the most prominent ransomware groups of the last couple of years from when this was published.
Black Cat can't be happy about that.
Do you think they sit around like with sort of leaderboards like the online gaming communities do, and they're like, "Oh, BlackBasta they got more this month than we did," and they all it's like a rivalry thing, or do you think they're all just friends drinking vodka together in Moscow?
It's a good question. I don't think they're probably friends. They're competitors.
Yeah, but in an industry where like the average lifespan of a company, if you want to call them that, is a few years, you got to imagine there's a lot of sort of cross pollination and transition, just like the cybersecurity community here in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, maybe, but they're friends. They're friends like the Batman villains were friends.
Sure.
They might they aren't necessarily friends, but they'll maybe cooperate a bit or something. I mean,
I think there's like an HBO docuseries material here, like the Secret Lives of Ransomware Gangs or something.
Yeah,
I would watch that. All right, Hive. So what do we know about Hive? They are also a ransomware as a service group. Seems to be the way to go. They also target multiple industries, including industrial and manufacturing, government, healthcare, and education. Man, gangs who target education and hospitals.
right.
I think this stuff is really interesting, and it's kind of cool, technically speaking. But it loses the luster for me when you start attacking like children's hospitals.
Right. Yeah. You're dead to me at that.
Yeah,
point.
you're kind of a piece of something.
Yeah, but they work with them, so they're actually, rather than just licensing it to an affiliate, they're actually kind of helping them carry out the attack. You said?
I don't know. I mean, it's still the affiliate model, so I don't know that they do. So maybe my criticism isn't well placed. Then maybe I'm really mad at the people who license the software and not the developers. Who knows how much say the.
I mean, it does say, one of our bullet points does say that they partner, like it's just worded differently. They partner with affiliates to launch attacks.
Yeah, I don't remember why we chose that wording, but it's I mean, it makes sense. They're supporting them, so in a sense, all of these affiliate programs, they're partnerships, right?
Sure.
So they're trash. As of late 2022, the Hive ransomware group had victimized over 1,300 companies and earned an estimated $100 million in ransom payments.
Wow.
That's crazy.
$100 million.
Yeah. If 100 people work for them, they're each millionaires now.
Mm-hmm.
Minus, the cost of doing business. It's crazy.
I mean, you got to think, the size of a ransomware gang, do you think that many of them are over 100, or do you think it's probably...
I wish I knew more about it. I'm sure Brian Krebs could tell us, or somebody like that, but it's...
Can we get him on our show?
We could try. Let's get a few more episodes out there with more than double-digit views, and then we'll start asking for the big names. But yeah, I assume that, like any criminal enterprise, like I'm thinking of what's it called? Ocean's 11, right? With George Clooney.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about movies all time this time. You know, they had their little group, and everyone kind of had their specialty, right? And it was sort of they were a gang, and you didn't want 100 people on the team because more people might betray you. There was more people who had to take a cut of the money. So I like to think there's kind of a right sizing of these groups that's somewhat self-selecting.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you only want the amount of people with the skill set that you need to carry out whatever you need to do.
Yeah. And what do they say? 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead, right? Like you don't want 100 people knowing what you're doing. So
Right.
or with access to the source code or the command and control infrastructure. Hive, let's see, a couple more things. They again they gain access through pretty much any method they can get their hands on. Stolen or purchased credentials, direct phishing, brute force, and credential stuffing attacks. They will even exploit relatively new vulnerabilities in network devices and Exchange servers, and to get that initial access. So they're happy to get in however they can. They try to terminate antivirus software and backup applications, disable volume shadow service on Windows, delete event logs. So do whatever they can to kind of, slash and burn and make it difficult for responders to figure out what's going on or to recover without paying the ransom. This was interesting. Do you remember Mega and Kim.com? Do you remember that whole thing?
I do. I believe.
Yeah, Kim.com was that New Zealander guy who I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but he ran Mega Upload, which became Mega, which was kind of a torrenty type software piracy site. There's a great documentary about him that I haven't watched in a few years, but anyway, so they use Mega for their exfiltration, which is pretty cool. So they're not just dumping it to their own servers; they're even sort of outsourcing the exfiltration process to a cloud storage company. So. They also have ransomware variants for Windows, Linux, and BSD, of all things. I guess it's worth their time to write code for BSD too. And then speaking of kind of the affiliate model, they have a customer service portal that's accessed through Tor that has real-time chat service, so they can help you make your Bitcoin payments right there with a real human being. Last but not least, they're known to reinfect networks for victims who refuse to pay. So they'll stay on you if you manage to push them out of the network, maybe without paying the ransom, and then expect them to just move on to the next business down the road. They may not. They may just keep pounding at the door. So that's the Hive.
And Hive, I don't think we have it in our bullet points, but the FBI made some progress with them, right?
They did, yeah. I just switched over to that CISA advisory here, and this is from November 25th of last year, so pretty recent. Yeah, I feel like even after this, right? Didn't the FBI take down some of their infrastructure?
Yeah.
I won't go looking for a new article right now, but
yeah, there's a Reuters article. Reuters, how do you pronounce that?
I think it's Reuters.
U.S. says it hacked the hackers to bring down ransomware gang, helping 300 victims.
Yeah, was that just like December or January?
That was January. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, they're the FBI. We're gonna come back to them too. This article also has a ton of good information. This is from CISA. This is a joint CISA-FBI advisory, so the FBI has shared a lot of what they apparently knew before they took down the hackers. So check this out in the show notes too. Let's move on, Jordan, to Lockbit.
Lockbit. This group, I mean, Lockbit. They're like the Walmart of ransomware gangs.
Yeah, and they're kind of OG too, right? They've been around for at least like 4 years.
They're ancient. Since 2019. They've claimed responsibility for attacks on hospitals, those little
miscreants,
shipping ports, and multiple levels of government too. They're ransomware as a service group. Again, they're the Walmart because they're really trying to be the best ransomware as a service group.
We better lawyer up here. I think the Walton family might come after us for that slander.
Oh, please. I'm a Target guy, anyways.
Minnesota, baby.
That's so anyways, so we know what ransomware as a service is. They have affiliates, they license it out. They also frequently do double extortion as well. They'll post things publicly if you don't pay them, or maybe even if you do pay them, they might do it twice, right? That hence the double dipping. So this is where it's not certain, but researchers do believe that they have Russian origins, and the reason they think that is because that the malware has been observed avoiding encryption when it's on Eastern European systems. So it's apparently picking and choosing anyone but Eastern European systems. So they think that's.
I also see at the bottom of the Axios article that I have up that they've charged somebody with dual citizenship between Russia and Canada with working for Lockbit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. After a 2.5-year investigation, they got this one person.
This one person.
Yeah. But there you go. There's some Russian roots.
Yeah, and so Lockbit. So they also, again, maybe the reason I refer to them as the Walmart, like they're really trying to be the best. So they've got multiple versions. So they upgrade, and so they're actually, they had Lockpoint 1.0, then 2.0, now they're at 3.0. And I mean, this was a while ago. I haven't even checked recently if there's a 4.0, but if it's not out now, it's coming.
Yeah, it looks like 3.0 came out in June of last year, so it's not even been around a year yet.
Yeah, so maybe every year they release new features and updates for their ransomware as a service. So they each one does have new features and even fix bugs. So they're doing just like Microsoft, like they have flaws in their own ransomware software that they fix and make it better. But initial access, they usually gain that. They do it in several ways. Like a lot of them, they use stolen purchase credentials, exploitation of unpatched vulnerabilities, and even insider access. What does that mean? So that means that they find someone inside, that can pull off the heist.
Yeah. I think that happens in those Ocean's movies too, right? Sometimes they have to get somebody with that initial access, somebody who works for the org or is a contractor or otherwise has a key to the building.
Mm-hmm. And once they gain access, what they use to kind of move around and do stuff, they use open source and commercial security tools. So like Cobalt Strike, Mimikatz, like we've talked about, Metasploit.
Yep.
And depending on the version of Lockbit, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, whatever one flavor you're using, the encrypted files will typically have either a .abcd at the end or a .lockbit extension added to their names, and that's kind of like their calling card that you've been encrypted by their ransomware, and then they leave a ransomware note, and that document is named restoremyfiles.txt. So then they guide you there, like with payment instructions, and there's that note is in every infected folder.
Okay.
So if you see that text file, you've been ransomed.
I've got it up on the screen here. Let me zoom in a little more. There we go. Yeah, they even maybe change your background. I don't know if that's just editorial here. I think this is a real screenshot. So yeah, they even set your background to something that looks kind of cool and flashy and cybercrimey.
Yep.
And then they tell you where to find that file.
Now here's some things I picked up actually at a security conference. Huntress was speaking, and so I don't know like the source of where this came from, but it came from that presentation. They said Lockbit owns 43% of ransomware as a service industry.
Really?
So they own a large chunk. They're the Walmart.
Well, they've been
I don't know.
around a while, so they've had some time to kind of build up that cred and that track record, I guess, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, and with the multiple versions, it's kind of like, well, if you like this version, maybe they get that reputation. But they changed their model, the affiliate model, a bit. So this is their little gimmick.
Okay.
The affiliate gets paid first, then Lockbit takes their cut. So it's kind of a trust thing where,
So the money doesn't flow directly into Lockbit.
right.
I wonder how often
They,
they get burned on that, you know?
yeah,
No honor
right.
among thieves, right?
Right. But hey, I mean, they're doing. They got 43% of the market. They're doing pretty good.
They're doing
They
something
got
right.
upgrade score.
Huh.
They also have. I think I mentioned this before, but they have an HR leg, arm or whatever, and they have a refer a friend program.
They do. Refer a cyber criminal program, huh?
Yeah. You can get a little kickback if you refer someone to use their Lockbit 3.0.
God, you got to imagine that type of referral relationship would end up in court eventually. Like, oh, I don't know what was going on. Tom told me all about it. He said it was a good way to make a few extra bucks
I got a free Amazon gift
on the
card.
weekends. Yeah, right. Free iPad. Oh man, what a weird world.
And that's Lockbit.
Lockbit, cool. Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes out for 4.0 maybe, and we can come back and revisit it and see what cool new features are there.
I wonder if they have trial versions that we can play with.
Try before you buy. All right, last but not least is Play. And again, we're just kind of going in alphabetical order here, but I like to think we saved the best for last because Play was the group we ultimately talked about last week in the Rackspace breach.
Yes.
So they are also newish. They came on the scene less than a year ago, June 2022. They also target a bunch of different sectors: government, hotel, IT service providers. They use similar tactics to Hive, leading some researchers to speculate that the groups might be related. So there's a little hint about some of those intergroup relationships we were kind of joking about. Play also uses stolen and purchased credentials that they can find on the dark web. They're happy to exploit vulnerabilities like the Exchange ones that they used at Rackspace, allegedly, to get into the environment. They were given their name Play because it was noticed that their encrypted files add a .play to the file name. So that's, I guess they got to name themselves. Let's see. So in December 2022, they were observed looking into the proxy not shell CVE vulnerability that affects Exchange, and ultimately that paid off for them at Rackspace, or didn't, I guess. We still don't know all the details about how much they might have made from that, right?
And if you want an in-depth look at that, check out our last episode. Scotty Boy did a nice little deep dive into that attack.
We both did. Yeah, that was a good one. So they did that. Let's see, what else do we know about them? So, a lot of this stuff, we're just repeating ourselves, but it's interesting. Right. They get on the system, they escalate their privileges. One unique thing about them, not unique, but notable, I guess, is that they used sort of lol bins, but they weren't literal lol bins. They weren't already on the system necessarily. So they used utilities called Plink and AnyDesk, which are sort of screen share, remote support type tools, to move around the environment, to connect to other systems, to spread their access within the environment. So again, like, why reinvent the wheel, right? If you can find a tool that's either already there or legitimately distributed and even cryptographically signed, why go through the effort to build your own tools?
Exactly.
Let's see. Oh, interesting. They also, in order to try to not be detected as easily, they split the victim's data into different chunks before sending it back to their command and control servers. I guess they use the RAR format, which is funny because WinRAR was like one of those freeware utilities that all my friends used in high school to trade programs or whatever. So blast from the past. So yeah, Play. I don't know. I haven't heard that they've been disrupted yet, and we really still don't know the full aftermath from the ransomware, from the Rackspace thing, or who kind of their next big victim might have been. So,
No, we do.
oh, we
We
do.
talked about it on the last show.
What did we say?
That they were in the news again.
Yeah, who was it? You're right.
That was the what country was that?
Oh, was that the Port of Lisbon? Was that them in Portugal?
No.
No.
That was the. Let me see. Because they're gonna pay. They were in negotiations with Play to actually potentially pay the ransom.
Yeah.
And
Who was
they
it though?
announced that.
Okay. Yeah, that was like just in March, right?
I think I got it here. Let's see. This was the Dutch company, the Royal Dirksvager.
That's right. The Dirksvager. How could we forget them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shipping company.
Shipping company, right? Yep. The Port of Lisbon was one of the other gangs we talked about already. I saw.
Yeah, so they're around. They're still hamming it up.
Yeah, crazy. Well, this article is also really good. Lots of IOCs, lots of links to supporting documentation. So a group to keep your eyes on in 2023, huh?
Yeah, so that begs the question now. Okay, we got these villains on the loose in Gotham. Mm-hmm. Where's the FBI, Batman? What are they doing? Why can't they round these guys up?
Yeah, and I think we can talk about the FBI, but they're sort of a stand-in here for the adults in the room, right? Law enforcement, political leaders, whoever, right? Cybersecurity companies, even like why are these groups allowed to run around free and do this? And what do you say, Jordan? Where is the FBI? Where is Batman?
The FBI. So there's a couple things. Maybe I'll get into. They are doing something. That's I guess where I'll start. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things they're doing in a bit. But
that's a relief. Sorry,
they have a bat signal that they shine, and no one comes to. No, but one reason why it's hard to catch these guys is because they're decentralized, right?
They are.
It's not like they have an address, like a building, and everyone shows up in cubicles and does their ransomwaring. Like they're hidden, and these are hackers. Like these are people that know how to cover their tracks, and they're all over the place, and they're all encrypted, and so the techniques to try to track that down are just more challenging to do. I would say that's one thing.
That's a big thing. Yeah, it's the internet, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a very decentralized set of computers. Millions and millions or billions of devices all over the world. Some of them are straight up cellular, right? And it's just some guy walking around with a phone in sub-Saharan Africa. Like it's not easy to physically track down those offenders. That's definitely true. I would also say though that they're not just anywhere. In a lot of cases, they're in certain specific places that don't have extradition treaties or relationships with U.S. or Western law enforcement, right? So
sure, yeah.
Russia's the prime example, and we like to make jokes about, Vladdy and his band of raiders, but there really are, physical places where the U.S., the long arm of the U.S. law, the Five Eyes countries and stuff can't get to because it's sovereign territory. They're countries. Some of them, like Russia, even have nuclear weapons. Like we can't just go in there and grab these guys. And it's always funny to read articles where they do name and sanction, cyber threat actors, individuals. It's like, hey, Vlad Johnson or whatever the common surname is in Russia, has been charged with carrying out these attacks, but there's not a dang thing we can do about it because he lives in Moscow or he lives, Siberia.
Do you think that some of those places, maybe even some, especially some that maybe like to cause some havoc in the world. Do you think they even maybe protect them a bit? Like,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so you earlier mentioned one of the ransomware varieties that proactively checked for like Russian characters, right, on
right,
potentially infected systems, and then said, "Oh, I'm gonna disable that." And we saw a lot of the same things during the earlier phases of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where it would target specific systems and not target others based on the language sets that were installed. So,
hmm
absolutely, um, not to besmirch his name, but Edward Snowden went to China and then ended up staying in Russia because he knew that these were places that he was going to be safe from the U.S. for better or worse, and we won't get into the specifics of that whole thing, but um, yeah, certainly those countries, if nothing else, I think they like poking the U.S. behemoth and allowing this stuff to happen.
yeah, and like I said, it's not like the FBI is doing nothing. One of they have made drastic efforts recently, or not recently, like yeah, I guess recently, to help. But so they, in some ways, like they might be able to, especially if you get them involved in these things, and they're available for you to report these kind of attacks, and especially anything involving money transferring. Um, but they may be able to identify a pattern, uh, in in the like they might be able to track
Like the
through
payments.
the payments. Yeah. um,
Yeah,
they might be able.
just like they would with any other sort of financial crime, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
cryptocurrency maybe instead of shell companies in the Bahamas or however people really hide money around the world. But yeah, I mean, it's the same skill set, right? And same kind of focus.
Yeah, and I mean one of their biggest missions that they're putting out there is to raise awareness about it. So just making sure that people are aware, know what to do to protect themselves from it, to prevent that. So they have resources that they're investing in on that side. um, and they do have access to a lot of like intelligence, so that maybe can help victims, um, with
Hmm.
negotiations and things like that.
Yeah. One more reason I think it's worth giving them the benefit of the doubt a little bit, the FBI specifically, or any law enforcement, is that it's hard. It's hard to protect these things. These are systems that are exposed to the internet. The FBI doesn't have administrative access to rack spaces, perimeter firewalls, or endpoints, right? Like
Hmm.
these are external and politically restricted to some extent entities that can't just do whatever they want for probably for good most of the time. They're bound by law and statute and they can do a lot, but they can't secure your organization for you. That it's just not a power that they've been given right now. Places like China, where there's this sort of great firewall, where the country really does have the ability to filter the internet. I expect it's a very different situation, and maybe they have an easier time defending against ransomware over there because they can straight up just shut it down at the network layer. But in the U.S. and other free countries, that's not the case.
Now there's also, so this isn't ransomware necessarily, but one interesting statistic that gives the FBI a little praise is uh, they do have. So if you are involved in some sort of a uh, cyber incident that involves like money transferring, they have a 92% success rate of freezing or recovering those funds. So,
That's so hard to believe when you hear that a group like which one was it? Hive has made $100 million in the last couple of years off of successful payments.
right.
So do that math, right? $100 million times that's if that's 8% of what they could have earned.
So I don't think it's going to be referring to ransomware.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Just
I think it's more like if so they're making strides more in like the, you wired money to the wrong place or something like that. Like
got it.
someone got involved because it's about freezing. So you sent money because someone tricked you.
Yeah, so like ACH type payments. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Well, so that's good, but yeah, obviously maybe harder to do in the crypto world where the transactions are, close to instant or, only take a few minutes or whatever, and don't have human or company names
Right.
attached to them.
I'm just trying to encourage the average guy that the FBI has some success.
Sleep well, citizens. Bruce Wayne is on the prowl. All right. Well, yeah, we'll let him off the hook this time, the FBI.
And they're doing they set up 56 cyber task forces across its field offices. So they're setting up camp. They're trying to be available.
Whatever. I have 57 cyber task forces, so I don't. That's not a big deal.
They set up a watch center, 24/7 iWatch.
That's cool. So they watch people get encrypted but don't intervene. That's fun.
It's for coordinating the field offices and stuff. So and then there's an Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3.gov.
Okay.
That's for registering complaints and identifying trends.
Yeah.
So they're trying to gather stuff. They've got some intelligence gathering.
Sure. And CISA, the Center for Infrastructure Security Agency, is that right? Or Cybersecurity and Infrastructure? I always forget. Let's find out. They also do a really good job too. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They're an arm of the DHS, and they're in a similar advisory capacity. I don't think they have any. Well, DHS has they carry guns, or they can, but they're another government entity that's very recent and also does a good job of kind of being that trusted advisor.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that was a good fly through the top ransomware gangs of the last couple of years. Do you want to close out here by just reiterating a few of those tips for how to stay safe from ransomware, or at least how to try to protect yourself?
Yeah, here are some useful tips for staying safe from ransomware. Update your software.
Yeah.
With security patches. Don't get those vulnerabilities out of here.
Okay. Require MFA, multi-factor authentication, on all external access methods. There's just no reason not to.
No reason not to. Usually it's free. Train your people. Get trained yourself on how to identify these type of phishing emails, these type of things where they're trying to get access. You can identify these things, Stop clicking.
Yeah.
Stop just clicking.
I forget the statistic, but something like more than 3 in 4 cyber attacks start with or maybe just involve a phishing or email delivered attack. So it really is the Walmart of attack vectors.
Yeah, it's trust but verify. So average guy gets an email. It looks intriguing, whatever. They're saying alert. You're because that's what they'll do. Something urgent like your bank account's hacked.
Yep.
We need you to click here and sign in and do something, and do it now. And so, man, just verify it. It's cool if you think, oh, maybe that's true. Just verify it. And there's other ways. Go to your bank's website. Just instead of going through that email, go to the bank's website. Give them a call. Say, hey, I got this email. But you don't have to do anything in that email to check to see if that was legit. Did you send me this email? Just verify that. And I always like to say, hey, if something is off, if it made an antenna go up, this is weird. Why did I get this?
But what if I only have 2 hours before my bank account closes because I didn't respond in time?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's what they want, right?
That's
exactly what they want, is to make it so you don't think you only have a little bit of time, and so.
One more thing to do, which I have up on the screen here at the end of that last article on the FBI, is ideally use an EDR, which is endpoint detection and response, which is sort of the newest of the new lingos for next generation antivirus products. But what really defines them is that sort of telemetry, the all that extra data. So really just monitoring what's happening on the endpoint. Sure, check for signatures, check for, heuristic patterns or whatever, but just monitor. Just collect everything that happens, every domain that's resolved, every, account that's created, all that stuff. Just like have a tool that's able to monitor that and have humans checking on that and have some automated alerts so that you know when some of these suspicious things start happening, not when you get the ransom note.
Yep. And back stuff up.
Yeah. Well, have more than one copy, have more than 2 copies of your data, maybe even have more than 3 copies of your data. It's cloud storage these days is so cheap. I forget how much AWS Deep Glacier costs, but it's, you'd have to cut a penny like 10 or 20 or 30 different times to get the per gigabyte cost for backing data up there. So much like you said about MFA, it's basically free. It's not free, but it's so cheap to back it up that way. Even if you just back it up once a year like that, imagine the difference between losing all your data or having to go back an average of 6 months in the case of an incident to recover most of your data. It's still going to be disruptive, but just do it.
Yeah, and you mentioned last week, I think, about immutable backups. I mean, that's something to think about. Like how you're backing up is also important. We because they're going to go after that. They're not stupid. They know you got backups. They know that that's going to thwart their plan.
Yeah, we saw some of the groups. We saw some of the groups proactively turn backups off when they get onto an endpoint. That there's a reason they do that.
Exactly.
It's the business model.
And encrypt the backups if they can get to them. So and there's ways around to prevent some of that stuff. We had a client once who got ransomware, and he had his backup hard drive was connected to the computer. So he was backing stuff up to it, but it's connected to the computer. As soon as they got on the computer, like those things got encrypted too. So I lost a bunch of personal photos that
never getting those back. All right. Well, we did manage to keep it shorter than last week, but not by a whole lot. But I think this was a really ton of good information and, again, some useful takeaways that people can use to try to stay protected against this particular threat. And I think we can promise the people that next week we're not going to talk about ransomware, are we?
I think we've exhausted the topic.
We'll be back.
Not exhausted it, but
yeah.
It's ready for a change. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Sounds good.
Right.
Well, anything you want to leave the folks with, or are we ready to sign off?
Thank you for being here once again.
Thank you.
Come on back. We like having you around.
All right. Until next time. Thank you.